1513, a man sat in a small farmhouse outside Florence. He had been tortured, exiled, stripped of everything he built. And yet, in that forced silence, he wrote the most dangerous book in human history. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince as philosophy. He wrote it as a survival manual. He had watched men rise and fall. He had observed princes, merchants, soldiers, and servants. And he arrived at one brutal, timeless conclusion. Every man has a price. Not necessarily money. Not always power. Sometimes it is respect. Sometimes it is fear of loss. Sometimes it is the desperate, silent hunger to be seen. But the price is always there. And the man who can read that price, who can identify it, understand it, and strategically engage it, that man does not negotiate. He wins. Welcome. What you are about to learn is not taught in business schools. It is not discussed in boardrooms. It lives in the spaces between words, in the pause before a man answers, and in the way he leans forward when a certain topic is raised, in what he never talks about, but always thinks about. This is a manual on human nature, and it begins with one question that most people are too comfortable or too afraid to ask. What does this man actually want? Before we go further, if you are the kind of man who moves through the world with intention, who studies people the way a general studies terrain, then this channel was built for you. Subscribe now. Not for entertainment, for intelligence. Every video is a briefing, and you do not want to miss what comes next. In the 1940s, a psychologist named Abraham Maslow mapped human motivation into a hierarchy: survival, safety, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. Most people remember this as a classroom diagram. The strategist remembers it as a targeting system. Here is what Maslow was really saying. A hungry man cannot be motivated by glory. A man who fears for his security cannot be seduced by vision. But a man whose basic needs are met and whose ego is starved, that man will move mountains for recognition. The price shifts depending on where a man stands in the hierarchy. This is why the same offer lands differently with different men. This is why a financial bonus closes one deal and falls flat in another room. This is why some men work for money, others for legacy, and a rare few, the most dangerous kind, work for dominance. You cannot offer a man what you think he should want. You must offer him what he actually needs. Napoleon Bonaparte understood this. He did not simply pay his generals. He decorated them. He invented honors, titles, and medals that cost almost nothing to produce, but were worth everything to the men who received them. He was manufacturing motivation with ceremony and symbol. He was paying each man in the currency that man valued most. This is the first lesson. Before you make any move, in business, in negotiation, in a relationship, identify the currency. Through centuries of strategy, philosophy, and raw observation of human behavior, 4 primary motivational currencies emerge. Every man operates primarily in one, though he carries traces of all 4. Currency 1, security. This man's deepest fear is loss. Loss of income, loss of status, loss of what he has built. He does not dream loudly. He protects quietly. He is not motivated by opportunity. He's motivated by the elimination of risk. When you speak to this man, do not sell him gain. Sell him protection. Show him what he stands to lose by not acting. Frame your proposition as a shield, not a sword. The insurance industry has known this for 100 years. Loss aversion, psychologists tell us, is twice as powerful as the desire for equivalent gain. Daniel Kahneman proved it empirically. But Machiavelli knew it intuitively 4 centuries earlier when he wrote, "Men are more reluctant to give up what they have than to acquire new things." Currency 2. Recognition. This man needs to be seen. He needs his competence acknowledged, his sacrifice noticed, his name remembered. He may appear confident, but beneath that confidence is an audience he is always performing for. Caesar was this man. Every campaign, every triumph, every political maneuver was, at its core, a performance for Rome. He needed the crowd. And the men who knew this, like Cicero, wielded it like a blade. To move the recognition man, you do not offer him more money. You offer him a title. You put his name on something. You credit him publicly. You make him feel that history is watching. Currency 3. Power and control. This man is not interested in being seen. He's interested in deciding. He wants the lever, not the spotlight. He wants to know that he can move pieces on a board, people, resources, outcomes, according to his will. These men often appear calm, unbothered. They are never unbothered. They are calculating. Do not try to control this man. It will trigger resistance so fierce, it will undo everything you have built. Instead, give him the illusion of control. Present your terms as his idea. Let him arrive at your conclusion through a path he believes he designed himself. This is not manipulation for its own sake. This is strategic cooperation. You want something from him. He wants authority. Give him the feeling of authority, and you both move forward. Currency 4. Purpose and legacy. This is the rarest currency and the most powerful. The man driven by legacy does not care about today's comfort. He's building something that will outlast him. He measures every decision against a future he will never personally inhabit. These men are the most committed. They are also the most selective. You cannot buy them. You cannot flatter them. You can only align with them. Show this man that your proposition advances the thing he is building. Make him see that saying yes to you is saying yes to his own mission. Become part of the architecture of his legacy, and he will move with you with a ferocity that money alone could never produce. Now you know the currencies. The question becomes, how do you know which one a man uses? You watch. You listen. You ask the right questions, and then, crucially, you shut up and observe the answers. 3 diagnostics. What does he brag about? Men reveal their currency in what they boast about. The security man talks about what he has saved, preserved, or protected. The recognition man tells you about who noticed him, who praised him, whose room he was in. The power man describes decisions he made and outcomes he controlled. The legacy man talks about what he is building. Listen for it. It is always there. What does he complain about? Complaints are windows into wounds. The security man complains about instability and uncertainty. The recognition man complains about being overlooked or undervalued. The power man complains about being overruled or disrespected. The legacy man complains about short-term thinking and people who cannot see the bigger picture. What does he refuse? A man's refusals are more revealing than his agreements. Watch what he will not compromise on, what makes him stand firm when everything else is negotiable. That immovable thing is his price. You now have the foundation. You can identify the currency. You can read the signals. But knowing a man's price is only half the equation. The second, and far more dangerous half is this. What do you do when a man's stated price and his real price are not the same thing? Because most men do not tell you what they actually want. They hide it, sometimes from strategy, sometimes from shame, and sometimes, most dangerously, they hide it from themselves. We will be going deeper. We move from identification to application. We study the art of the approach, how to position your offer, how to frame your language, and how to move a man towards yes without him ever feeling pushed. The strategy intensifies. Stay with me. There is a story about John D. R. Rockefeller, the most powerful man in American business history, that most people never hear. When Rockefeller wanted something from a man, he never asked directly. He never negotiated openly. He would invite the man to dinner, speak about everything except the deal, and by the end of the evening, the other man would leave feeling understood, respected, and, without quite knowing how, already committed. His associates called it charm. His rivals called it manipulation. Rockefeller called it preparation. He had studied each man before they sat down. He knew the currency. He knew the wound. He knew what that man needed to hear. Not to be deceived, but to feel that Rockefeller's proposition was, in fact, his own idea. You have identified the price. Now you must learn how to pay it, strategically, precisely, and without revealing the full extent of what you know. Because the moment a man realizes he is being read, the game changes. The walls go up. The deal dies. And you lose not just the negotiation, you lose the relationship entirely. The approach must be invisible. The influence must feel like weather, something the man walks into naturally, without ever seeing the hand that opened the door. In 1936, Dale Carnegie published a book that sold 30 million copies. Most people remember it for its pleasantries. Smile, remember names, make people feel important. What most people missed was the architecture underneath those pleasantries. Carnegie was teaching a single, ruthless principle dressed in social grace. Men trust what they recognize. Men move towards what reflects them. This is strategic mirroring, and it is one of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of any man who deals with people at a high level. Mirroring is not mimicry. A man who copies your posture awkwardly is performing a party trick. But a strategic mirroring operates at the level of worldview. It means adopting, temporarily and consciously, the language, values, and emotional framework of the man you are engaging. If he is a security man, you speak in terms of risk, protection, and stability. You use words like safeguard, proven, reliable, certain. You remove uncertainty from every sentence. You make the unknown feel known. If he is a recognition man, you acknowledge his track record before you make any ask, or you reference what he has built, what he is known for, what others say about him. You are not flattering him. You are activating him. There is a difference. Flattery is empty. Activation is precise. It connects the man's identity to the action you want him to take. If he is a power man, you give him the frame, then step back. You present the situation as one that requires his judgment. You say, I wanted your read on this before I moved forward. You are not asking for permission, and you are extending authority, and in doing so, you are pulling him towards you. If he is a legacy man, you make the proposition historical. You say, this is the kind of move that defines what a company, or a man, stands for. You connect today's decision to tomorrow's story. In each case, you are not changing what you are offering. You are changing the frame around the offer. And a man buys the frame before he ever buys the content inside it. Most men lose negotiations not because they offer too little. They lose because they talk too much. Lyndon B. Johnson, one of the most effective political operators in American history, was famous for what his staff called the treatment. When Johnson wanted something from a senator or a lobbyist or a foreign dignitary, he would make his case, then go completely silent. The silence was not passive, it was weaponized. Most people cannot tolerate silence in a negotiation. The discomfort becomes unbearable, and they fill it with concessions, with justifications, with the very information they should never have revealed. Johnson knew this. He would sit, say nothing, and watch the other man dismantle his own position in the panic of an empty room. Here is the principle. He who speaks first after the offer loses. Make your proposition. State the value. Name the terms. Then, stop. Let the silence do the work that words never could. This requires discipline, because your instinct will be to clarify, to add, to soften. Resist it. Every word you add after the offer is a signal that you are not fully confident in it. Silence, by contrast, signals certainty. And certainty is the most persuasive force in any room. Practice this. It feels unnatural at first. Then it becomes one of the most comfortable places you have ever stood. You have come a long way in a short time. You entered this video not knowing what you did not know. And that is the most dangerous position any man can occupy, moving through negotiations, relationships, and business arrangements, completely blind to the forces actually driving the men across from you. Now you see differently. You understand the four currencies: security, recognition, power, and legacy. You know how to read a man's brags, his complaints, and his refusals. You have the three-phase engagement sequence: reconnaissance, alignment, and the ask. And you understand the subtle, devastating art of reflective revelation, making a man feel so deeply understood that he moves towards you not because you pushed, but because you listened. That is not a small thing. Most men never learn this in a lifetime. But I have to be honest with you. Everything we covered today, the identification, the approach, the alignment, it all assumes something. It assumes the man across from you is operating with some degree of openness. That his resistance, if any, is simply misalignment waiting to be corrected. But what happens when it is not? What happens when the man you are dealing with is not uncertain? He is strategic. What happens when his resistance is not confusion? It is a test. What happens when the price he is showing you is not his real price? And behind it sits something far more complex, far more guarded, and far more dangerous to misread. That is where most men fail. Not in the approach, in the end game, or in part 2, dropping in 3 days. We go there. We dissect the anatomy of real resistance. We study the men who push back, not because they are unsure, but because they are watching to see how you handle pressure. We cover strategic tension, the walk away, and the one posture that makes everything else in this manual possible. And we close with the complete integration, the full picture assembled into a philosophy of engagement that will change how you move through every room for the rest of your life. 3 days. If you are not subscribed yet, do it now, because part 2 will not wait, and neither will the men you are about to face. The end game is coming.